Every culture that has ever built a moral code shares one instruction at its foundation. Do not want too much. Desire past a certain threshold becomes sin. The hungry are suspect. The ambitious are dangerous. The person who says openly that they want everything, money, power, status, immortality, gets classified as a predator and treated accordingly. The classification works because it maintains order. It also produces a world where wanting is universal and admitting it is forbidden, which means the defining feature of most people's inner lives is a hunger they have agreed to pretend does not exist. In Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, a being called Father, in pursuit of divine perfection, tears the wanting out of his own soul and gives it a body. The body wakes up, looks at the world, and says out loud every single thing that every human character in the story has been trained to keep silent. His name is Greed. He is the most honest entity in a world built on suppression. The story that follows him, and the prince who ends up sharing his body, is a diagnosis of what desire actually is when it is finally allowed to speak without a filter, and what it discovers at the end about what it was looking for all along. Father extracted his own avarice and discarded it. The discarded piece became a person or something shaped like one. Greed woke up with a single drive and no context for it. He wanted, constantly, indiscriminately, and with an intensity that had no off switch, because he was built from wanting with nothing else mixed in. No conscience to moderate it, no memory to direct it, no attachment to anchor it, just appetite in a body. The first thing he did was accumulate. He built a crew of chimeras, beings rejected by the world the same way he had been discarded by his creator. He called them his possessions. The language was territorial and deliberate. These are mine, not companions, not allies, mine. This is textbook compensatory behavior, the pursuit of substitute objects when the actual need is too threatening to be pursued directly. Greed wanted connection. He wanted to matter to someone. He wanted the experience of being chosen rather than discarded. But connection requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires a self that can be wounded, and Greed's entire design was built to prevent exactly that. His biology, his posture, his aggressive stance toward every living thing, all of it was architecture against exposure. So he called his friends possessions, and his loyalty ownership, and his need greed, because the vocabulary of attachment was not available to a being constructed from a single emotion ripped out of a complete psyche. Quick pause. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the psychology of Fullmetal Alchemist, please help out by subscribing, leave a like, and hit the hype button to help the video reach more people. Thank you so much for being here building this with me. Ling Yao arrives in the story pursuing immortality. The surface resemblance to Greed is immediate, another figure chasing something limitless, refusing to settle for less. The architecture underneath is inverted. Ling is a prince of the Yao clan. Tens of thousands of lives depend on whether he secures the emperor's throne. His siblings compete for the same seat, and none of them share his conviction that authority exists solely for the people beneath it. Political theory calls this model servant leadership, the understanding that power is not a privilege to be seized, but a weight to be carried on behalf of those who cannot carry it themselves. Ling's hunger is enormous, but the hunger does not terminate in him. It passes through him and arrives at the people waiting for him to succeed.
When his retainers sacrifice themselves to buy him time, Ling makes the decision that defines him. He opens his body to a philosopher's stone, a howling mass of compressed souls, and lets greed take residence inside his flesh. If immortality requires surrendering his own body, then the body is an acceptable loss. A prince who would give up his own autonomy to protect a nation, and a homunculus who hoards autonomy to protect himself from ever needing anyone, both sealed inside the same skin. The fusion is hostile at first. Greed takes control. Ling is pushed to the margins of his own consciousness, present, resisting, refusing erasure. Father expected total overwrite. What he gets instead is cohabitation, because the gravity of Ling's purpose exceeds anything a single transplanted emotion can generate. A want that carries an entire nation inside it is heavier than a want that carries only itself. During this forced coexistence, the meaning of greed's signature ability becomes impossible to ignore. The ultimate shield hardens his carbon body into an impenetrable surface. The defensive system is flawless, with one structural consequence. A body sealed against all damage is also sealed against all contact. The shield that keeps the world from hurting him also keeps the world from touching him. The psychological term for this is avoidant attachment, the pattern where a person who was discarded or abandoned early develops an armor of emotional withdrawal so total that the armor itself generates the isolation it was built to prevent. Greed's power is his loneliness made material. The harder the shield, the more complete the solitude inside it. What begins to crack the shell is not philosophy or argument, it is memory. Father erased Greed's recollections when he reconstituted him, but memories are not clean data. They leave residue. Emotional traces survive in places that cognitive erasure cannot reach. The chimeras start returning, triggered violently when he strikes down a surviving member of his old crew without recognizing him. The ghost of a loyalty he cannot explain, suddenly crashing into the horror of what he just did. Ling accelerates the process simply by existing inside the same body. Living alongside a mind organized entirely around the protection of others forces proximity to a question Greed has been running from since his first breath. What would it mean to lower the shield and let something in, knowing it could be taken away again? The final confrontation with Father forces every remaining pretense out of the way. Greed, by this point, has crossed over completely. He fights alongside Ling, alongside the Elric brothers, alongside people he once considered beneath him. The shift was never announced. It accumulated, memory by memory, conversation by conversation, until the being made from expelled desire found himself standing on the side he was created to oppose. Father begins pulling him back, reabsorbing the Philosopher's Stone. Greed's body starts dissolving. Ling will die with him unless the bond is severed. Greed has never lied. His entire existence was defined by raw, unfiltered declaration of every want. That was the one trait he could claim with certainty. He said what he felt, always, without the social filter that makes coexistence comfortable and honesty rare. Lying requires a gap between interior and expression, and Greed was built without that gap.
The stone! Philosopher's Stone! Damn it now! Fight it, Greed! Let go, dumbass! You're gonna get dragged in with me! No way! You can't just give up! Tough it out! Let's fight it together! Hey, partner! That's more like it! What are you? It's time to say goodbye, kid. There's no point in you getting sucked into my old man with me. You just told me we'd fight together! Didn't you? You can't just sucker punch me like that! How could you lie? You always said you don't believe in telling lies! It can't end this way! Ah, you fell for it! Hook, line, and sinker, you little pissant!
It is his first lie, his only lie, a noble lie, a falsehood told not for self-preservation, but for the preservation of another, at the cost of the liar's own truth. The embodiment of selfishness performs the most selfless act available to him. The being who never lied uses his single lie to protect the person he cannot afford to lose. The creature who wanted everything gives up the only thing that turned out to matter.
As his soul dissolves, the expression on his face is peace. It is about the discovery underneath. He finally knows what he was hungry for. The money, the territory, the power, the immortality, all of it was noise, generated by a void he could not name. The signal was the thing he had with the chimeras before they were taken, and the thing he rebuilt with Ling before time ran out.
the experience of being chosen, of being known, of mattering to someone who would feel the absence.
They gave me everything I could want. Thank you. And goodbye, my friends.
He dies knowing the answer. That's genuinely sad, because the answer arrived precisely at the moment it could no longer be lived with. Desire does not respond to suppression. It responds to aim, a hunger pointed at objects, wealth, power, permanence, consumes without satisfaction, because objects cannot return the gaze of the person accumulating them. A hunger pointed at people, at genuine bonds, at the experience of being known and chosen, has somewhere to land. The landing does not eliminate the wanting. It gives the wanting a shape that fits. A being made entirely from desire spent an entire existence pursuing everything except the one thing that would have quieted him. He found it in time to die for it, and not in time to live with it. The shield came down, the lie went up, and the most honest creature in the story told his only falsehood to protect the one thing he finally understood he had been starving for since the moment he opened his eyes. Father tried to achieve perfection by expelling his own wanting. The expelled wanting spent a lifetime learning what Father never could, that the desire he was so desperate to be rid of was the only part of him that knew how to love.